When we came to Israel, my wife and I, we had about $2,500. That's all the money we had. And we came to Israel and we realized very quickly that the money didn't last, that the money was disappearing faster than we could believe. We didn't realize how expensive it was to live here and how hard it was to make the right decisions and how expensive things were if you went to the store to buy them. But over the 40 plus years that we've been here, we've seen a lot of people come, a lot of people go, a lot of people that had hopes and dreams, and they came here, and with disappointments, they wound up leaving. Some of them after a few years, some after several years, some after a few months. We have seen so many people leave. Why? Why? Coming here to Israel for us wasn't because we had some fantasy of the Holy Land, that we had some fantasy that this was going to be our paradise on earth. We came here for a specific reason. As we looked at the prophets, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and others, it became very obvious God was calling the Jewish people back to the land. He was calling us back home. We could do one of two things. We could either say, "Yes, Lord, Hineni, I am here am I," or we could say, "I don't hear you. No, I've got too much at stake at home." But we said that we needed to obey him. Once we understood that the scripture was making it clear that God was calling Israel back to the land, we said we need to get ourselves ready and we need to go. And we did that. And we were young. We were in our early 20s. But we came and never had been here before. That didn't matter. What mattered to us was to obey the Lord. I tell people very often, I have over the years, coming here because of obedience is not the same as coming here looking for some kind of a thrill or some kind of fantasy. If you obey the Lord, if you're Jewish, and you believe that God, and especially if you follow Messiah, you have an obligation to return to the land. It's not a question mark of saying, do you feel like it or not? It's a question of being obedient. God has a plan for the nation of Israel, and we have an obligation to obey his plan. We have an obligation, and that tells us that we don't come here only if we get the finances that we want. We don't come here if we have our dream jobs or we have our dream homes or any other reason. We come here to obey. Now, it's funny, I just thought of this recently. We came here in the late 70s. Israel was a nation, a declared nation in 1948, and we came here in 78. We came here 30 years after the nation was accepted as a nation. Of course, we missed all these wars like in 48 and 56 and 67 and 73. We weren't here for any of those. We were too young to have been here unless our families had brought us here. But we came here. We have been here since then. And I can tell you, it is hard. It has been very difficult at times. And there are times that I, in all honesty, have felt like I wanted to run away because of the difficulties. But, and I say but, big but, we're constantly have reminded ourselves that God asked us to, as Jewish people, to obey him and to return to the land. And I don't speak against those that have left. Everyone has to deal with their own situations. But what I will say is that It's not a question of wonderland. It's not a question of everybody saying, welcome home, brother. I'm glad you're, or sister, I'm glad you're here. We need you. That's not the way it is. Obey, obedience, and let him, when we stand before his throne, let him reward you. But obey.